All right. Hello, everyone. It looks like we have some participants joining. Welcome to Service Learning Week. This is the first event that we are having through Penn State's College of the Liberal Arts Career Enrichment Network. We are so excited to have our panelists here for our Social Impact Careers panel. I'm going to introduce them in just a second. But one of the biggest things, oh, there he is. One of the biggest things that I wanted to real quick talk about is that we're promoting the Health and Human Development Career Fair that's going on Thursday this week in the Hub. So if you can make it there to visit and check out some local organizations to work for, that's a really good opportunity. This webinar will be recorded and we'll get started. I'm going to start by introducing Will Smart. So thank you, Will, for joining. I really love seeing your face here. Will Smart is the recruitment director at Teach for America, where he leads TFA's talent, leadership, and campus partnership team at various schools in the Northeastern United States to recruit as many of our nation's most promising future leaders to grow and strengthen the movement for educational equity and excellence. Before joining Teach for America, joining Teach for America's national recruitment team in 2021, he served as a 2019 Teach for America Corps member and in his hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he taught high school chemistry and math. He is a proud Penn State alum, and he earned his Bachelor of Science in Psychology and in Global and International Studies with honors from Penn State in 2019. He was also selected as the 2019 Student Marshal for the Global International Studies Department. He is still based in Philly and enjoys playing sports, watching new TV series and movies, and engaging in dynamic experiences with loved ones. And I will send out his contact information after the panel to all of our attendees here. So welcome, Will. Thank you for being here. Okay, so next we have Harrison McRae. So Harrison is a public servant passionate about solving problems through building better government systems. He began his public service career through Govern for America as a fellow in the 2021 cohort. Through GFA, he was an employee of the state of Missouri in their Division of Personnel and as the strategy and analytics lead. In this role, Harrison supported statewide programs and research that helped empower Missouri's public servant workforce of approximately 40,000 employees. At the end of his 2-year GFA fellowship, he joined the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where he currently serves as the Special Assistant for Emerging Technology in the Office of the Administration. So thank you so much for joining us, Harrison. And then last but not least, we have Sasha Haas. Sasha served as the food security volunteer with the Peace Corps in rural Guatemala, teaching organic gardening and nutrition classes to indigenous populations. Sasha has dedicated her career working with nonprofits specializing in food systems and began her own consulting business to assist new nonprofits navigate policy, secure funding, and develop strategic programming to best serve their communities. Originally from California, Sasha enjoys spending time at the beach, hiking in the mountains, and in cooking Italian food with her family. She is currently a Coverdell Fellow, obtaining her MBA from the Smeal College of Business, emphasizing on the creation of new avenues for social impacts within the field of business. So we have a stacked panel today with some amazing people. So I want to encourage all of you who are in the audience, please do not be shy. Put all of your questions in the Q&A or the chat. I will be monitoring it as we go along. But to get started, I'm wondering if all of you could we'll start with Will and then move to Harrison and then Sasha, could just tell us a little bit about your own career journey and what led you to the careers in social impact. So, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Lauren. And thank you for such a great introduction. Sasha, Harrison, it's a pleasure to be on this panel with you. Like everyone's just doing such amazing work, and I'm just excited to be here. And Man, I can go like really deep. I don't. Let me see. So my journey. So I'm a proud Penn State alum, and just a little bit about me and my background is that when I came to college, I was undecided. All I knew was like, look, I want to make an impact. I want to help people, but I didn't know how. And I think Lauren, I told you about this. I actually was studying to be a doctor at first because I was like good at the math and sciences. I took the Chem 110. That's a beast, but I was able to pass those classes. That's not what changed my head, turned my head. What really changed my focus was because I started becoming very disenchanted with like the healthcare system, right? Like I remember I was 19 years old and I'm shadowing doctors in DC. And while I'm seeing these doctors in their white coats helping people, putting a smile on the face of their patients, there would just be so many mornings where we would enter the hospital and we would see people collapse right in front of the entrance, right? These were people who didn't have homes. These were people who didn't have insurance. And these were people who, no matter how hard the doctors worked inside the hospital, couldn't fix this broken system that allowed sick people to sleep on the streets. And that was when I was like, look, I need to really dig deep and figure out not like, yeah, I want to help people, but what does that look like for me? Um, and after like real thorough reflection, it was really like, I want to be in a position where I can advocate for my community and also work towards creating systemic change. Right? We have to fix broken systems so that people can get access to the resources, care, and opportunity that they deserve. So what that looked like was like I switched to start studying psychology, global international studies, because I wanted to understand people and systems. I get to my last year, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I never thought about teaching, but the more I saw how education connects with all these problems in our society, and when I was speaking with the Teach for America alums and recruiters, I really saw that teaching was a profound act of social justice, and I was inspired to join the fight. And so I applied, got in, and I taught high school chemistry back here in Philly, in my hometown. And it was the hardest thing that I ever did, but it was the most transformative 2 years of my life. And it's just, there's such so much powerful work going on in our communities. And I'll talk about that a little bit more throughout the panel, but that's just a little bit about my journey, how I got into that work. And now I'm in this position where I'm in recruitment because I'm going to speak with more passionate people, more passionate young people that really want to make this world a better place and talk to you about why it is important to do a career in service before anything. And so that's just a little bit about me, man. And I'll kick it over to you, Harrison.
Love that. Well, really, amazing way to get us started. And Lauren, thank you for inviting us all. I will just quickly say I'm currently a employee here at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but I'm here representing Govern for America, not representing kind of the views of my employer here with the Commonwealth. But I'm so excited to be here, and a lot of what Will said, I think, really embody some of what was my decision process as well. On so many different topics that we need to make progress against, it really takes a village. You need different type of subject matter expertise. In that hospital example, you need people who are helping set the policy window to give people access to insurance and healthcare. You need to make technical advances to make sure that there are medical solutions available. You do still need those doctors, those nurses, the administrators in the hospital. You need kind of everything, all of these interconnected topics. And for me, I'm someone who really approaches things in terms of structures and systems and wanted to be part of our institutions that guide a lot of these systems. And that drove me to see how I could get involved in a career in public service and particularly in government, which for better or worse is this really large system and structure we have. And Govern for America is a program to really help folks, find that pathway. Unfortunately, the job process and hiring in government can be really cumbersome, really difficult, especially if you're early out of school. And Govern for America GFA really helps with that. They provided a pathway for me to do a really high impact role in Missouri. And from there, I've really not looked back and felt like I could make a huge impact on some of these issues that I think we all share in direct government public service work. And excited to be here with you all and answer any questions and talk about the opportunities there. I'll pass it to you, Sasha.
Thanks, Harrison. And thank you, Lauren, again for having us. I think these two gentlemen do a wonderful job explaining why I got into a career service, the passion, right? So each of these guys are talking about things that drove them or inspired them. And I think as a young adult, that just continued to happen, whether it was a professor or a teacher or someone in the community. everyone was just so passionate about the things that mattered to them. And like Harrison and Will mentioned, these changes or the systems that we're a part of or want to make differences in or make changes in, it's messy and it's complicated and it's hard. But that passion really helps drive those changes and helps people through it. So my career has not been anything linear whatsoever. I knew I always wanted to go into the Peace Corps, but I didn't know when, I didn't know how. So I did it a few years after after I graduated, after political science, or my major in political science. And I really understood that these changes that we want to make to systems and how we want to be involved in government or leadership positions, you really have to understand people and really understand who you're working with. And so that component of empathy and compassion for the other individual, all humans, I think it really continues to divide our communities at this point in time, but the more similarities you can see with people and understand them, where they're coming from, really helps us accomplish all the things we want to do, in my opinion. So yeah, it was passion. It was exciting things and that empathy just to get to understand whoever I want to work with or whoever comes along the way.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Oh my goodness. It's so inspiring hearing from every single one of you. We had a question in the chat that I'm actually going to put out to all of you. So how was a degree within the liberal arts? How did that set you up for success in transitioning to teaching, to government, to the Peace Corps? So Will, I'll start with you there.
Oh, thanks so much. That's a great question. And I think like I just remember like when it comes to like the liberal arts, a lot of people are like, hey, it's like it's really broad. Like, what can I do with this? Because it's not as like technical, like some other career paths. But what I will say is that the skills that you gain as a liberal arts major, right? And Sasha, you hit the nail right on the head with this, right? People skills, right? Like a lot of like the skills we develop in the liberal arts majors is like one, learning how to work in groups, learning how to work across lines of power and difference, learning how to analyze and be a systems thinker to approach some of our greatest challenges, right? Whereas like some other pathways, and it's like I have a love for all pathways, it's very technical. It's like, oh, you do A, B, and C, you get D. Whereas in the liberal arts, we're wrestling with questions that don't have answers, and we're taught how to have an analytical lens. And that is the greatest skill that you can have when you're doing like work in our underserved communities, where you're doing work where you want to actually create change, because we don't have answers, but we need people that are analytical. We need people that think in new and different ways. We need people that know how to work with people, work with others, and imagine a new world beyond the status quo. And I think a lot of liberal arts majors are really good at that, imagining a new world, you know? So I'll pause there, and Sasha, Harrison, whoever wants to jump in.
Cool. So I will be honest, that part of my degree did have a technical component to it. It was an interdisciplinary degree, but the technical parts wouldn't really be helpful at all in what I do now without the liberal arts parts of it. And, I think one thing in particular for government work is so much of government work is interdisciplinary. It's very people focused, and a lot of governments, unfortunately, have some combination of a history where they've done a lot of harm to communities and or, are underserving in the past or currently a lot of communities that are overlooked. And being a great public servant is being able to rebuild these systems, help improve them, make sure they're more representative of the folks we're trying to serve. And you can't do that unless you have the ability to kind of navigate some of these tough trade-offs, navigate how to contextualize, our history, where we are currently, and then take all that to deliver better outcomes for folks. And there a lot of these solutions are complex and there's a lot of constraints, but if you don't have kind of some of that liberal arts training background, ability to process information and really turn it into new visions for what we can do, we wouldn't be able to be successful in building better government systems. So I found a lot of that parts of my training and degree really essential, and I wouldn't be able to apply any of the technical aspects without that.
Nice. I like both of those answers, and it's hard to, you guys really hit it spot on. I think one of the most important skills that I took away from my liberal arts degree was the ability to stay curious. So you learn so many different things, and you learn a lot of different topics, and you're trying to be thinking outside the box and trying to think of new ways that haven't really been done before. But just reminding yourself to just continue to ask those questions, because you're not always going to be right. Your partner's not always going to be right. There might have to be another way to think about something. In tangent with that, I would also say that communication is a huge skill. Being able to orally communicate, verbally communicate, and written communication. You know, a lot of our transactions are done over email, and things can really be blown out of perception, or even when you're speaking with somebody, just your tone of voice and treating others with respect is kind of the baseline. You always want to make sure you present yourself in a respectful manner, but being able to know your audience and communicate to them to make sure that they understand. And that also includes being an active listener. So.
Excellent. Thank you all. So my next question is, if you could each just take us through a day in the life of what it was like to be, for Will, Teach for America Corps member, Sasha, Peace Corps member, and then Harrison as a Govern for America fellow. Like, what did your day-to-day look like? Will, I'll start with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I think I could better explain this when I'll first talk about what Teach for America is. 'Cause I don't think I got a chance to do too much of that in my intro. And so at Teach for America, we are a nonprofit leadership development organization. And our philosophy is that we're trying to find passionate leaders who want to make a systems change impact. And what we do is that we ask you to join us in this work, where you would be teaching for 2 years in an underserved community, because here you're making this impact, but ultimately you're being proximate to our nation's most underserved communities. You're going to be proximate to most our failed systems. And what we're doing is we're giving you coaching, ongoing support, and we're supporting you to make a systemic impact, not just during your 2 years, but we set you up to make this impact ongoingly, right? And so as a Teach for America Corps member, right, you're like the summer after you graduate, you're engaging in intensive training, right, where you're learning not only what does it mean to be a teacher, but what does it mean to be an equity-oriented leader? What does it mean to, like Harrison, you said it best, to contextualize the history of harm, to contextualize your identity, who I am, and systems of unfairness and oppression, particularly along race and class. And so for me, when I first started off as a teacher, you're doing a lot of the things that teachers do. But the thing is, a lot of people don't understand, what do teachers do, right? A lot of people think teaching is some form of glorified babysitting, when it's not. It's a really profound act of leadership. And so some things that you're doing on a daily basis, like for one, you're creating a vision of success for the students that you're teaching, right? You have to create a long-term vision, and then you have to like break it down and say, like, how are my students going to get there, right? So you're creating these lesson plans, right? Where you're thinking like, how do I engage every learner? How do I make this lesson dynamic and speak, right? In a way that like captivates them, but also brings out the best in them, right? So you're planning your lessons, you're teaching lessons, you're checking for understanding, right? You're working with family members in the communities to make sure that you're supporting their child every single day. And a lot of people fail to realize that like, teaching is it's a very professional skill, right? Like a lot of jobs is a lot of just like replication, duplication, and an execution. Whereas teaching, it takes a lot of innovation. It takes a lot of creativity. You're coming against problems that you just don't know. Like, hey, I prepped this lesson. I don't know why it didn't land, right? What do I do now? So a lot of it is data analysis, right? Hey, my students didn't do well on question 3 on this exam. How did I word question 3? What can I do differently? And so there's a lot of elements that you're doing, but in a day-to-day, your lesson planning, you're being a dynamic speaker, you're building powerful relationships with your students, with family members, and with the school community. And then over time, right, you're developing your leadership skills. And if you want to stay in the field of education, you can. But at the end of your 2 years, you're like really set up for success to move up in the education system, or to take your skills and to go into like maybe government policy or do other things to that nature.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Will, for catching that. So I'll kick it over to Harrison. If you could just tell us a little bit about Govern for America first, and then kind of take us through the day of the life of a fellow. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Govern for America is also a 2-year program that places early to mid-career folks, generally who are within 3 years of graduating either undergraduate or graduate degree program, in state level government positions. State level government is kind of this fun in between where you both are working at pretty large scale, but also are only 1 or 2 steps removed from the actual citizens you serve. You know, great work is also done at the local and federal level, but they're a little bit more in kind of the ends of those extremes. And state, I always like to tell people, I'm a little biased, but is right in that sweet spot. But Govern for America helps place folks and provide career pathways in these 2-year programs with state level government in high leverage positions. One thing that I always talk with folks about when I'm talking about Govern for America is, it's helpful. It's easy for us to kind of imagine government as just like this one big blob of a thing. But there's really so many different types of work that exists within that. And we see that across our fellows. Folks who are working in government are working in healthcare, whether it's maybe signing folks up for Medicaid or Medicare. It's folks who are working to keep our environment clean. Either from a regulatory side or in our state parks. It's folks who are doing the administration of government itself and helping make sure that these institutions that are massive, they employ thousands and thousands of people, run effectively and equitably. There's a really wide range of different types of roles, and GFA helps place folks in high leverage positions where they can develop as a public sector leader and over their 2 years make an impact in the work that they're doing. A kind of day in the life for me, so is a combination of both a lot of program specific work and then also really trying to tie that work back to our different stakeholders or communities we're serving. I'll also mention that for Govern for America, there's kind of 3 tracks people work in, either a data track, a program track, or a finance track. Finance being kind of budgeting in the government sense. And for me, I was a mix between the program and the data track. And so a lot of that work, again, early in the days, it was helping push forward our programs. One of the ones that I worked a lot on was we had a survey where we'd survey all 40,000 employees of the Missouri state government with the goal of trying to create experiences and programs for our state employees that helped empower them so that they were then set up for success to provide the best services they could in the roles that they served. So a lot of this work was interviewing and speaking with different employees we had from across Missouri. It was helping understand the data from this program. And then it was working with our different stakeholders, whether they were employee groups themselves or kind of senior leadership, about how we could actually take this information and then implement it to have better experiences for our employees so that, again, they could deliver better services. Something that wouldn't happen every day, but also was a pretty routine part of my experience, was we also would have cohort different types of meetings and opportunities. So part of Govern for America, as well as there will be a quarterly either virtual or in-person meetup where you meet with the rest of your cohort. GFA cohorts are kind of between 15 and 25 people each year, so a bit smaller, and you get the chance to really bond with those other fellows who spread from different states, learn from their work experiences. So we'd have that quarterly, and then also every other week I would actually meet with a group of 2 other fellows. We did this for the entire 2 years, and we just kind of vent when we needed to, share ideas, kind of just catch up on what was going on. And so that was usually kind of a pretty regular part of my day and experience as well.
Thanks so much, Harrison. That's excellent. How about you, Sasha?
Yeah, I actually didn't know what Govern for America was. So thank you, Harrison, for educating me about that. And I'm a little jealous because I think I would have really liked that role. So a little bit about the Peace Corps. I mean, the Peace Corps is a federal government agency. So they're, just like Harrison was mentioning, there's all the back end stuff that goes through it to make that continue on a day-to-day basis. The Peace Corps volunteer program is geared towards college educated students who, they've completed their 4-year degree, and then 2 years of service, 27 months exactly. You do 3 months of training and then 2 years, typically in a rural community internationally. Currently they have about 60 different countries that they're serving in. And they have 6 different sectors that you can serve in based on your interest or your different skill sets. Teaching is one of them, medical, agriculture, youth development, and social or entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. So it's a wonderful, wonderful program for anyone that wants to get international experience. That was my main goal, is that I love to travel. I loved being other places, learning about the culture. So I knew I wanted to do that, and I wanted to serve. I knew that these were impoverished countries that had actually requested the United States government to be there. So you weren't stepping on toes. You're not just coming out, and there's no savior complex in the Peace Corps. It's like, I'm here, and you just kind of sit back and you wait. You're encouraged to sit there for 3 months and just meet people. So there's not really like, the day in the life is really hard to describe because every day can be very different. And just learning about the culture is your first goal. So you just kind of have to see what every town is different. Everybody is going to have a different experience. For me, I was an agriculture volunteer. So I worked with my municipality in the mayor's office and the women's office. So they had groups of women already established in rural aldeas in my town. So we would hike 2 hours to these towns and teach them about organic composting or gardens. Then we do nutrition classes. And then the communities would also decide. They might say, we need our chickens vaccinated, or we need, a medical mission to come out, and everybody has this cough that we need help with. So as a volunteer, you really have this ability to kind of shift with what the needs are of the community and start your own projects on your own. A lot of my friends, kind of what Harrison was mentioning, that the cohort is really strong, and you will be lifelong friends with these people that you work with because it's hard, it's fun, and you just build a lot of memories. So yeah, that's kind of the Peace Corps in a nutshell. And I hope I answered all of the question. I might have got lost in it, but.
No, that was perfect. Oh my gosh, I love all of this. Thank you all so much so far. So my next question is, what is the most encouraging part of your work within your organizations? And then on the flip side, what do you find is the most challenging part of your work? So I'll start with Will.
Yeah, no, these are great questions. And I feel like one thing, it's we all have, like, we're all doing very like similar work. One thing I didn't mention is, like, you do, like, similar to like Govern for America, Teach for America, you get like those community, like every Saturday, I mean not every Saturday, one Saturday a month. You meet up with like, no, you're not working on Saturdays. Every one Saturday a month, you're meeting up with like your core, and you're building these memories, you're like leaning on each other, you're commiserating, you're collaborating, you're building like friendships for life. And one thing I will say is, like, the thing that's the most encouraging, it's so hard, there's so many, but for one, it's the impact, and two, it's the relationships. And it's like, it's like no particular order. I think I would say relationships first and foremost, because the relationships you build with your fellow core members last a lifetime. And when you're doing Teach for America, you're building relationships with your fellow co-teachers, your students, their families, and like those relationships, they just take you so far. Like, I'll tell you a quick story where I remember, so I was teaching high school chemistry, and one of the things is, like, I was very much struggling with like the curriculum, because one of the issues is that like a lot of students across the entire United States are doing reading, writing, and arithmetic below grade level, and to do chemistry, it's like you got to do that on grade level. And so I was just really struggling with the curriculum, but my best friend was so I'm like 22 at the time. My best friend was like a guy in his middle, he was a middle-aged man in his like upper 30s. He had a wife and 3 kids. And he was like my best friend, and we would always be like collaborating and making these lesson plans, and he would be sharing his resources. And we got so close that I remember that he actually called me from the hospital the day his 4th child was born. And it was when I was like, man, I didn't even know we were this close. But you have moments like that, it's like, wow. It's like I guess I never would have thought I would have been friends with an upper middle class, upper middle-aged man. But it's like, those are the memories, those are the bonds. Of course, I had friends like my age too. You also have really great moments with your students. I remember that's so many students. They love telling jokes. You realize how old you are when like they start making fun of your style. Like, oh, like, Mr. Will, we don't wear those anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because polo boots were the big thing. I used to wear them to school sometimes, and they would make fun of me. But you just get those moments. And one last moment I want to share is just like, I remember, because I taught high school, I got a chance to see my very first class of students graduate. And I just remember I had this one student who sometimes you just didn't know what kind of day he was having. Some days he would have his head down. Some days he would try to like be attentive in class, but you just never knew. I just never knew like if what I was saying in the class was getting through to him. But I remember on graduation day, he was dragging me over to meet his dad, and he's like, Dad, this is the teacher I wanted you to meet. This is the teacher I was telling you about that inspired me every day I was in school. And you get moments like those, man, and it's like that's worth more than like that. They just fill you up so deeply. And so I would just say the relationships, first and foremost, and then that impact, it just lasts a lifetime. That's what kept me going.
Thank you so much, Will. How about you, Harrison?
That's really awesome to hear just from Will. You know, it's tough to follow Will with all these questions. It's really keeping me on my A game here. But I think, you know, you asked for kind of some of the kind of parts for hope and the challenges as well, right? I think with government and a lot of the other experiences fellows have with Government for America, the challenging and the hopeful part comes one and the same, where it's some of the change that you get to enact is a little bit on a slower burn. You know, it's not like you're knocking on someone's door, talking to a voter, and there's like an immediate connection you make with someone, or it may not be as fast paced. You know, the reason it's a 2-year program is because to really be in there and in the weeds and do the work, the time horizon is a little bit different. But once you're there for a while and you've gotten to, you know, be a public servant who is doing amazing work, moving these systems month after month, and you hit that 6-month or that year-long turn, then changes and impacts you get to have are like structural and they're concrete and they can have widespread impact. And I think, you know, that can be really difficult. And I spoke earlier in my first answer about how, you know, a lot of these problems we're trying to solve really take a village. There's a large range of skills. I know for some folks, like that's really frustrating. And for some folks, it's like, no, they like the kind of the one step after another moving forward. And then when it hits and you're able to make that change, it again feels really concrete and you feel like you've kind of been able to walk away and push the ball forward on some of these topics we need to work on. And so I think that is, you know, one of the challenges of government work, but also, you know, one of the exciting parts is there's a lot of opportunities to improve these systems and you can really make concrete steps forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Harrison. How about you, Sasha?
Let's see. I'll start with the challenges for the Peace Corps. One of the taglines of the Peace Corps is that it's the hardest job you'll ever love. So it's challenging in the sense that you are in a foreign country. You might not know the language. You might not be comfortable with the food. You might not know how to ask for what you need or communicate properly. So like the struggle is real. And there are days where you're just like, I want to go home and eat my comfortable fast food or whatever it is that makes you feel good. And so it's hard, but it's like these slow little wins that just keep on stacking up. And then over time, you really get used to it and can rely on friends and family to make you feel better. So the challenges are plentiful in the Peace Corps, but I think what makes it such a great opportunity is that you know you can do anything when you're done with it. Like you're resilient, you're super resourceful. Anytime I've gotten into a job application or someone's reviewed my resume, they're like, you were a Peace Corps volunteer? All right. Like I know you can throw down, you can do anything. And so it's wonderful in that regard. The inspirational parts, I would say, are those really small wins. I was teaching nutrition education, and Guatemala at the time had the 3rd highest rate of malnutrition in the globe or in the world. And they had one of the highest exports of fruits and vegetables in the world as well. So they were growing the product, but they weren't eating it because they were getting a higher market price to sell it internationally. And so by teaching individuals how to grow like a small plot of land just for themselves and their children and their family, and then when you go out and teach them something and go back for another visit and they'd be adding greens to their beans or like eating an egg, just little tiny things, and showing that they enjoyed it and showing that their kids are healthy and doing better. Those little things, you know, made me feel like I don't think I had a huge impact on this community, but I know I at least helped that one woman. And so those small little wins really add up.
I feel like that's the common theme that I heard from all of you, how like trying it can be at times, but the amount of persistence that it takes to just keep going and capture those small wins are what keeps you all inspired, which is just amazing to hear. So this is a little bit more in the weeds question, but we had a question specifically for Sasha, but I'll ask Will and Harrison as well. If for Sasha, like if you got to take holidays or vacations during your 2 years of the Peace Corps, and if you received a stipend for your travels. So similarly with Harrison and Will, like what did that like day-to-day work-life balance look like when it came to like vacation and pay and all of that kind of stuff? So Sasha, I'll start with you this time.
Great. So yes, I did have vacation. I got to go home to San Diego for, I think I went home for 2 weeks, and then I actually went to Italy for 2 weeks. So you get vacation time. And then the most importantly is that you get your weekends off so you can travel around the country. So my friends and I would meet up and explore Guatemala. So it was really cool. The Peace Corps, the way it's structured is that it's completely paid for. So all of your travel is covered. All of your medical is covered. You get a stipend, which is essentially wherever you're placed, you're at the local level of income. So like they kind of just give you a base pay so you can live pretty, I mean, well, you're the lower level, but well. And then you also, when you complete your 27 months of service, you get $10,000 as a readjustment allowance so you can get your life settled when you move back to the States. And then one of the best benefits of the Peace Corps is that they also give you non-competitive eligibility for 1 year after your service. So if you do want to go into any government jobs or positions, your resume goes straight to the top of the pile, which is really beneficial for those that are looking for government. And one thing I took advantage of is the fellowships. So there are about, I think there's like over 150 universities that partner with the Peace Corps. So you can get a master's or a PhD. I took advantage of the zero cost route, but there are some that are like 30% reduction in tuition. But that's also just another really fantastic way to further your education as well. So.
Amazing, thank you. Harrison, how about you? Benefits of Govern for America as a fellow.
For America, the way that our program works is that once you are accepted to GFA and you make it through the application process, you then ultimately interview with a potential state partner. If you get selected by and hired by that partner, you ultimately then are an employee of that state. So when I was a fellow of Missouri, I was ultimately employed by the Missouri state government and had access to, you know, all of their kind of normal aspects of pay, benefits, holiday, sick leave, paid leave, all of that. That looks pretty standard compared to, I would say, normal 9-to-5 roles. So, you know, I wasn't working the weekends. I would have, you know, active conversations with my manager in terms of kind of like when we were logging in and logging out and what that looked like. So that's what you should expect. I will say that GFA works in several different states in a wide range of different agencies across different positions. So the pay can vary a little bit. And I believe when you go through the application process, that's something that GFA is able to provide a little bit more information to you upfront about in terms of if you were to live in this state and work for this agency, this is kind of the range that you would be potentially accepting. But ultimately, again, you're employed by the state and it's not kind of a stipend type model.
Great, thank you. That's so informative. How about you, Will, with Teach for America?
Yeah, no, it's actually very similar to Govern for America in that, look, we place in 38 regions across the country, and you're like, once you're placed in a region and once you're accepted and you go through, you're ultimately employed by the school, but you get financial assistance from Teach for America. So for instance, in the 38 regions we place, you get to apply directly to like where you want to go. So if you want to go to New York, it's a popular region, you can go there. You want to go to Miami, the Bay Area, Minnesota, anywhere, right? Like in our regions, you can apply directly there and get placed there. Now, we also offer financial support for you to transition there, right? So you can get anywhere between $3,000 to $12,000 to relocate to an area based on your financial need and the cost of living. Once you're in that area, you'll be making the same as same salary as a first-year teacher in that area. So for instance, in a place like New York, you'd be making $60,000 a year as a first-year teacher. In a place like Philly, you'd be like around closer to $50,000, things of that nature. When it comes to additional benefits, right, we are AmeriCorps members, and I think some of the programs here are. So you get your student loans put on forbearance. You get $12,000 you can put towards your student loans or through a graduate school program. Working as a school employee, you do get a lot of the breaks that you enjoyed back as a child when you were in school, right? So your summers are off. You do get that winter break. You do get a spring break. You do get like those holidays that you'll be enjoying, where like your fellow friends might be working, you know. So you get those benefits. And what else? And then yeah, you don't work the weekends, right? Like the idea is like you're not working the weekends, you're working Monday through Friday. And the last thing is that once you finish your 2 years with Teach for America, you actually have access to 100+ employer and graduate school partnership programs. And what that looks like is that you get offered increased chance of admission. Like a lot of like graduate school programs will ask, hey, did you do an AmeriCorps program? And they'll specifically ask if you did Teach for America. You have the opportunity to apply for scholarships. Some of our fellowship programs, like our Capitol Hill Fellows program, where we put TFA alums on Capitol Hill, things of that nature. We also offer scholarships like from like $15,000 to like full ride. So it just varies. But yeah, there's a lot of benefits to joining Teach for America in that regard.
Great, thank you so much. You all had touched on about the transition after finishing the program and some of the support that was asked in the chat. So I'm gonna move past that one because I know we only have about 4 minutes left. So I guess just to kind of conclude everything in the panel, if you have any words of advice for students who are listening either right now or who will be viewing this recording later, if they are interested in going into any of the social impact careers that you all have. So Will, I'll start with you again, and then we'll kind of loop back around.
Yeah, no, this is a really great question. I mean, look, my biggest thing is like, if you are genuinely are passionate about making this world a better place, then we have to get proximate to where our communities are not served, domestically and internationally. Right. I remember I was in school, I was always like, yeah, what is it? Like, I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help underserved communities. But I had no idea what that was like until I actually started doing the real work. There's no shortcut to it. If you want to make a change in the communities that you care about, then you have to actually be a part of the communities that you care about for some amount of time. And so I'd say it's like my greatest piece of advice. It's like, yes, I know you're thinking, oh, this 2-year commitment, this 27-month commitment, is this worth it? It's 100% worth it. And it will change your career for the rest of your life. And I'll end with this. I remember Barack Obama spent 6 years working in community before going to law school. And he said that those 6 years were the most instrumental to his leadership. Because when he went to law school, it wasn't just, oh, I'm just learning about this amendment, this policy. It's like, I got to learn this in the context of the communities that I'll serve. And so if you want to serve, you want to make the world a better place, get proximate to our communities that we serve and do one of these programs. They're all great programs. Harrison, over to you.
Completely echo what Will said. You know, I think if you're on this call and you're already interested in this type of work, would really encourage you to continue down that path. And also, you know, while there's overlap between our programs, there's some difference as well. I'm someone who definitely in kind of some of the bigger risk, or not risk, but bigger kind of stake situations, definitely get a little decision paralysis sometimes. And I think ultimately in any of these programs or even similar programs that aren't here, you're going to learn so much by getting to be in the work, as Will said, in community with folks you're trying to serve. And there's no kind of theoretical learning that replaces that. And it will also inform a lot of the impact work you want to do going forward. So I would just push you all to, you know, approach this as a longer journey of public service. And again, there's a lot of really great programs out there, and to, you know, explore them and use that to inform kind of the type of service and impact work you want to do long term.
Yeah, great answers, both Harrison and Will. So thank you for leading with that. I think my biggest takeaway from this is really just to follow your passion, like find out what you're passionate about and do it, and just keep on surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded like that, and learn as much as you can, like continue to learn on that subject. Because you can just do so much more with that when you become, you know, when you have the passion and then you want to do something with it too. And then I would also really highly recommend to not listen to the naysayers. There are going to be a lot of people that say, oh, but what about that? What about? And you know, don't follow the money. If you want to be in a life of service, or if you want something that's as rewarding as all of our jobs, I mean, we love our jobs, we love what we did, and we're fulfilled a lot more than monetary means, right? And so there's going to be naysayers that say you should do this or the path should be that, and that's I would just say follow your gut, keep to your passion, and you can't go wrong. So.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I am just in awe of all three of you and the work that you have all done. And honestly, like, I'm like, I feel renewed. I'm like gonna go out there, like even in my own working with students, it's so nice to hear from all of you, and like that core value of the impact that you all have within the communities and the systems that you've talked about, which is just amazing. So I know we're a minute over time. I want to thank all three of you so much for your time and your expertise and words of wisdom today. It has been such a pleasure to listen and hear from all of you. If it's okay, I would love to share your contact information with the students on the call. So if they have any questions about your agencies, they can contact you, connect on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. So awesome. All right. Well, everyone here, have a wonderful, joyful evening, and I will hopefully see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.